Welcome back to the University of Young Entrepreneurs. I'm Brennan C. Adams, and on today's show, we got my buddy Chris Lowe here. How you doing, my man?
I am good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. You know, we finally are getting this show done.
Yeah.
And today, we're going to talk about how we met, your story in videography, but also the things we've done together.
Yeah.
With Young Entrepreneur Convention, with Kevin Harrington, with the shoot we're doing today, all the different projects we're working on. And we're actually filming this too. So if you're listening on iTunes, SoundCloud, go over to BrennanTAdams.com and check out. We got the whole video here. It's going, and you can see Chris and I, and we got a cool setup here. Obviously, if we're going to have a videographer on the podcast show, we're going to make it a great
Obviously, we're
shoot
going to
here,
film
right?
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because we're in my own kitchen and dining room right now using my house, which is actually pretty cool. We pretty much turned this whole thing into a studio, got the lights set up and everything. You guys can't see it, but if you check out his Snapchats, you probably will.
Oh, yeah, he's checking Snapchats out. But we, Chris and I have become really good friends, and we're looking back. We met back in September.
Of last year, yeah.
September, and it's so funny because I remember him telling the story. We went around, it was, actually met him, I had some mutual friends, Philip and Angelo Campos, that are actually on the podcast show previously, but they said, hey, we got this guy, he creates some good content, he's getting started, he's doing some good videos, we need you to talk to him for doing our video for Young Entrepreneur Convention. So there we roll up. You didn't even know what we're doing.
Well, you know what's actually really funny is that I've known these guys for a while. I knew them probably at least 2 or 3 years even before that, if not more. And so Philip actually messaged me and he's like, hey, do you know what, man? Let's catch up. I've always seen you at the bars. Let's go get a cup of coffee. So I was like, all right, cool. So Hy-Vee is right up the street from where I lived at the time. And he's all like, hey, man, it's I'm really glad that you was willing to do that. Let's meet at 9 o'clock. It's all right, cool. So I roll up, and then of course, I start walking in, and I walk into the door, so I'm just why do they have laptops open? And then I see Philip and Angelo, and then I see you sitting there, and I was like, oh boy, what did I get myself into? It's what did they rope me into?
We still in a timeshare?
Yeah, I seriously thought that. I was just man, they are going to try to sell me on some stuff or whatever, and I was like, all right. Now I'm standoffish and everything like that. So in my mind, I was like, I'm just going to do this and I'm going to leave.
And the funny thing is you got roped into a lot of things, which led to not only the promo video, which highlighted the whole city of Des Moines, which is seen all over the place, but also another video. We ended up traveling, we went to different events. And Chris did all the videographer work, and now Chris does everything for me for videography. We've done in Florida with Kevin Harrington, did the whole shoot there.
Now, by the way, that was awesome. They have such a cool co-working space. If you're ever down there, it's the station?
The station house.
Yeah, check out the station.
I'm always talking about it.
So cool. It's in St. Petersburg, downtown. Absolutely ridiculously awesome, and right now I think it's super cheap to get in there. So if you're in that area, seriously check that out.
That's where we met Caleb Maddox.
Yeah, Caleb Maddox. I thought it was funny because he came up to you and he's all like, "Whoa, Brandon T. Adams," and I'm like, "Who's this kid?" And I felt like Caleb Maddox, and I'm like, I still don't know who that is, and I feel sorry, Caleb. I feel really bad saying that. If you're watching or listening, I feel really bad. But I admire the kid a lot, dude. He is
14 years old,
crushing it. When I was 14, I was all like, I gotta go to high school.
So Chris and I, we have quite the background. We've traveled. He's ironed my shirts on trips for photo shoots.
I don't even know how you can be a man and not know how to iron your shirt.
We've had times where I think Chris wanted to kill me, and we just done a lot of work together. And we've seen the power of a video, Chris.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to talk about today. How you got started as an entrepreneur, how it led you into doing film, and now working with the big names you are now. You're doing so many. You're booked all the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I always make sure to get in because I'm
obviously.
We're gonna I'll call up the night before. Hey, we're doing the video shoot. This is what we're doing. This morning we're filming athlete here and personal trainer in Des Moines. And this afternoon we're gonna do some more filming. We're filming this. And who knows what else we're gonna get ourselves into.
A lot of stuff. We're gonna be all over Des Moines. I can guarantee.
We're gonna be all over Des Moines.
All over.
So Chris, let's talk about you. I want to hear. And you have a great story, and I can't believe I haven't got you on yet on the podcast show because it's very inspirational how far you've come and where are you at now. You are killing it, man. And the thing I love about entrepreneurs and everybody I had on my show is passion. Because people that are passionate about their work they're the ones that create awesome stuff.
Yep.
And they take value in their work, and it's about creating something that draws impact and emotion to other people and inspires them to do things. And from what we've done, our synergy alone has done that. It's told them stories. And I just want to hear, first up, tell me where you got started. Just in high school, like how it led to you to even getting into videography.
Well, it's funny because like the company itself hasn't lasted that long, but I know the journey started well before the company even started. Because I mean, when I was a kid, let's say like middle school, let's start there. Always a trouble kid. I was terrible in school. I always got in fights. I got suspended. I mean, school was not the thing for me, you know. Yeah. And I just got distracted all the time. And I remember my parents were just like, "Well, he's just got ADHD. It's whatever. This, and that." But like, I mean, in my mind, I was like, "Dude, there's no way. There's no way that's the key." And then go to high school, and I just barely make it by. I hated doing homework. Always ace tests, stuff like that. And like, the thing is, I don't advocate, it's not like I'm advocating not to go to college or anything like that, but, you know, fast forward a few years later after high school, I just barely graduated. My dad was all like, "Thank the Lord." You know, like seriously, he's like, he's got a degree or a diploma. So, like, I mean, we're kind of okay then, all right? You know, like, I'm not saying top 25%. But maybe bottom. But
did you beat 1.68? I mean,
1.7 maybe.
Oh,
1.72. I think it's 1.72. I don't know. I can't remember that far back anyway. But I remember I loved working in high school because like I got a job at Hy-Vee when I was like just right when I turned like 14 years old. That's right when you could work in like a grocery store and everything like that. And I was like, man, I have so much more fun just interacting with people and actually just doing work rather than being forced to like write down papers and reading To Kill a Mockingbird, and like, who hasn't read that book? You know what I mean? Like, I hated doing that stuff, but I was okay with being like, hey, go take care of some carts for me or something like that. And I was like, cool, you know? Yeah. Just I like working, you know? Yeah. And I think back then, obviously, I didn't realize it until now. I'm a workaholic. I could work 7 days a week, you know, and not even blink an eye. Especially because, like, what I do now, I love what I do every single day. But fast forward a few years later again, it's like then I'm jumping from job to job, you know, and I'm like, what the hell's going on, right?
What are some of the jobs you did?
So, I mean, I've dabbled in, God, you could probably name it. I've probably done it. Childcare, construction, finishing work for like construction companies, all that stuff. I did sales probably for like 13 years. Yeah. I mean, I love doing sales. I love talking with people. I love interacting. I love just shaking people's hands, helping them out, stuff like that. One of my favorite jobs was working for Steve Madden. That was really, really fun. It's a shoe company, if you don't know what that is.
Oh, yeah.
But I worked there for 2.5 years. The cool thing about that is I started out as a lowly little associate making $4.25 an hour. By the way, that was the minimum wage at the time. All right, I was started at $4.25, right?
$4.25?
It was $4.25 when I first started. They changed it in 2007, which was about, actually, probably 6 months after I started, and all of a sudden I was like, boom, hey, by the way, they changed the law, it's $7.25 now. And I was like, well, yeah, yeah, that's awesome, right? So I'm like, oh, cool, I like money, you know? Yeah. It's like, I'll take that. I did that job for 2.5 years. I've worked my way up all the way up to a sales supervisor and everything like that. So I was like, man, I got some potential to, you know, keep going, right? Yeah. So the company shut down that store. Then I went off to American Eagle, got an assistant manager job there. And in a lot of ways, like I was just getting my foot in the door. I was like, hey, you know what I want to do? I want to become like a district manager. They get to travel to store. They get to, be in charge of like
experience a lot more.
Yeah, experience a lot more, especially because you're not going to the same place every single day, you know. And then I realized I was like, I got bored, you know. Like I kept going from job to job because I kept getting bored. You know, one of the things that they talk about as entrepreneurs is that something that they realize is that the reason why they keep jumping from job to job is because they get bored. They don't have any more competition. Like, because I remember that I'd always try to be number one, and then when I became number one, I was like, okay, all right, so now what? Like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
You know? But, you know, that was kind of like the precursor to everything that kind of went down. Now, this is where it starts to get a little bit darker in my history. Because after American Eagle, I went off and I started getting into like cell phones and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, well, what had happened? Let me think here. So I had a bit of a problem with authority. Let's put it that way. Okay.
I know what that's like.
Yeah. So, fun fact: I've been to jail I think 17 times.
17 times.
17 times. But
Okay, I knew you'd been to jail, but I didn't know 17 times.
But who's counting, right? You know what I'm saying?
counting?
Yeah, but who's counting? I mean, this is like a culmination of, like just a combination of just a lot of things that happened. Like nothing violent. I'm not like a murderer or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I made a lot of bad decisions. That's the things that that I don't talk about too much, is that a lot of the bad decisions I made even back in high school.
But you learned from them.
Oh, I definitely learned from them. Like that's the biggest thing, is learning from those things. But going down the darker path, what I mean by that is that pretty soon I was working in the bar industry for quite some time, but then the drinking got the best of me and stuff like that. I got an OWI, and actually after that happened, I won't go in too much detail about it because it's not that important. But what's important is what had happened after that. Okay.
Yes.
I ended up getting that OWI. I got kicked out of the house I was living in. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I didn't have anywhere to go. My parents are gone. They lived somewhere in a different state. They lived in Colorado at the time. I didn't really have anywhere to go, okay? Now, some people would be like, oh, well, why didn't you try to ask your family, stuff like that? It's like, well, it's not really an option in my culture. It's really not, So I decided, well, screw it. Like, I guess I'm just going to have to live out of my car, jumping from couch to couch. And I was homeless for 4 months,
4 months homeless.
Yeah, 4 months homeless. And getting a little emotional because, in all honesty, sometimes when you look back on some of the things that you had to do to get where you are now, it's kind of.
But it's formed you.
It was a very scary time, and it was a very interesting time. Scary as in like I don't know when I'm going to have my next meal. Like what am I going to do? At the time I wasn't working because I had lost my job after the OWI incident and everything like that. And then.
So what at that point? What did you do to make a decision? Because there's a lot of people out there that are listening that have been through tough times.
Yeah.
And they usually, what happens is they throw the towel in. They don't pursue the entrepreneur thing.
Well,
because you pursued it now where you're at, but looking back on it.
Yeah.
So what was the change you did to make that decision and to get into videography?
Yeah. Well, in all honesty, it was just like, hey, you can't give up now. You've gotten this far. You've done so many different things now. Like, what's stopping you now? Is this going to stop you? No, it's not going to stop you. Now it's trying, like, what my dad taught me? He's like, you figure it out. Simple as that. Like, you figure it out. This is all on you.
I've heard that before from my dad.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, that's how old school dads are. Tough as nails guys. They're like, hey, you figured it out. You're a man, right? And that's exactly what I was thinking in my head. I was like, why am I doing this? I was like, all right. So what I did is that I actually got a job at Gold's Gym.
Yes.
A friend of mine, Chris, who was the general manager at the time, he offered me a job because I was still working at Cabaret, West Glen, right? Yeah. So I was only working there like one or two times a week, and I was making like $50 a night. And I was like, that's obviously not going to do anything for me. So he's all like, hey man, listen, I know you're not working or anything like that. He's like, why don't you come work for me at Gold's? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I made a lot of bad decisions, stuff like that, and he's willing to look past that. Yeah. Sure, cool, I'll take that. So I took that opportunity. And I kind of ran with it. So at first I was like, good, I'm back in my element, I'm doing sales again, everything like that. Well, the cool thing is that with that, I had already been training at Gold's for a little bit. And so that's why I kind of saw him here and there. And then he was all like, hey, why don't you just come work for me? And then there's another gentleman there that used to train there. His name's Wes Keith. I remember he asked me, hey man, I've seen some of your funny videos that you put out on Facebook, stuff like that. If you haven't seen some of my funny videos, look back on my Facebook page.
Check them out.
There's one that actually kind of went viral, and it was like me doing like some ninja moves. It like was like quick cut type stuff or whatever. But he's all like, hey, you're pretty good with editing stuff like that. Why don't you do a video down at the gym? I was like, oh. Yeah, cool. Like, what do you want? He's like, I don't know, like a tour, just show people lifting, stuff like that. And it was really cool because I think back on it, I have all this cool equipment, but I started out filming on an iPhone 5S, and I edited on an iPhone 5S.
And I've seen some of your work in the early days. Yeah. You cannot tell the difference.
Yeah, you've seen it personally.
It looks great.
Yeah. And I was like, to me, I was kind of like, I'm very critical of myself, especially with artwork and stuff like that, because I used to do art in high school, stuff like that. Yeah. But I'm especially critical of myself now. Like, I always try to get better.
Sometimes
and better.
You yell at me when we're doing
exactly. Yeah, I tell you like, hey, stop talking for a second.
It's my job.
But so what was interesting about that is that I gave it to him, and he was like, holy cow, this is really good, right? Then that got posted, I put it on my Facebook page, and then a friend of mine, Rebecca, got a hold of me. She's the owner of Mint LA Boutique in West Glen and Ankeny. And she's all like, hey, I've seen your funny videos, and I saw the gym video you did. It's like, how do you feel about coming out and doing a shoot with us too? you know? And I was like, I hope she realizes that I'm coming with an iPhone,
Yeah.
you know? And I told her that. She's like, oh, I mean, the work looks great, so just come out and we'll do it, you know? And
With
I did
the
it,
iPhone.
Yeah, with the iPhone. So and actually at the time I upgraded to a 6 then. So I was like, all right, even better, right? And I was like, hey, cool. So basically I started out doing everything on an iPhone, which is absolutely insane to think. Because now I got like thousands of dollars worth of stuff that, you know, create awesome videos, but just to think of the humble beginnings, you know, behind it all and everything. But did those couple commercials, and then actually I got asked to do a wedding. And I was like, oh man. I mean, there are a couple friends of mine, and they knew going into it, you know, what they were getting into, you know, what I was doing. But I was all like, you want me to do your wedding? Are you sure? Like, I'm showing up with literally a phone. I'm just a guy with like, I had a tripod, like a tiny tripod, like, and actually, with an iPhone, and I bought a lens kit. It's like a case that goes in the back and you screw on a lens, and that's it.
So how'd it go?
Went great. It's actually on my YouTube channel. Like, I let people watch that. I show it to people, to clients now.
Wow.
Yeah. I show it to clients now. Yeah, and then the thing is that I tell them, I was like, just watch the video. And like, let me know what you think. You see my current stuff, I want you to watch this video. And they're like, oh, that was actually really good too. And I was like, it's one of my first wedding videos I've done, and I filmed it with an iPhone. And they're like, oh, boom, I'll take it.
So what was the next step? So you get to the iPhone. So where was that point where you decided, I love doing this, and I want to actually do it for a living?
You know what? It wasn't even about loving what I did. It was actually the point where I was like, you know what? I am so sick of working for other people. It's like, I could do this for a living. You know, the moment when it clicked to me, when I was sitting down at my desk and I'm just hearing just people like, what was it? Somebody was canceling a membership or something like that, and bickering back and forth and stuff like that. And I was just like, man, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm done with that. And then on top of that, I was like, I mean, it's like, how can I benefit from doing this video stuff? I love doing it way more. I had no idea what I was getting into. Okay, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
Like, as a business, I had no idea what I was doing.
I think early on as entrepreneurs, we going into it, we don't know.
Yeah.
You gotta act as if you do know X amount.
Yeah.
And just keep going until you get to that point.
Yeah. And I was all like, all right, well, I know I need a website. Okay, so I did that, and I built my own. Like, I'm creative enough. I knew how to build, or I knew how to do it, and you know, I got my own website. Then I thought about it. I was like, all right, so what else do they use? Do they use print media? Nah, they don't do that anymore. Like, I mean, newspapers are dead, stuff like that. And I was like, all right, well, you know, why don't I just start using my Facebook, right? So I just started blasting my stuff out into Facebook and everything. And then all of a sudden, I got people like really liking my stuff.
Yeah.
And then that was the moment I was like, man, people actually like looking at my videos. So I was like, all right, cool. So I'll keep making that stuff. And so as a side business, I was making videos for clients, and I was still working at Gold's. Then there was one day that it's like everything exploded one day, like at Gold's. Like somebody was yelling at me, like another employee was yelling at me, then the general manager was yelling at me, and this, and that, and I was like, you know what, screw this.
I'm out.
I am so out of here. I'm like, screw you, you're cool, screw you, I'm out. I said, bye. I'm done being overworked. I'm done being just basically overworked, underpaid, underappreciated. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it for myself. And you know what? And videography just so happened to be that outlet and that opportunity to do that. Then all of a sudden, I started to figure out, man, I'm really good at this. And so now, well, I'll be honest first. The second month after I quit, I had a panic attack because I was all like, I have no clients.
What do I do?
It's like, what do I do?
I think a lot of people have that.
I was just like, I
leave, but it's like, now I have to.
It's like I don't have money. I don't have the opportunity to go get another job. Like, I just burned that bridge like pretty bad. I mean, there's no going back. And so I was like, well, I mean, shoot, I guess I'm gonna have to hustle. I'm gonna hustle my ass off. And so guess what I started doing? Hustled. And I've been doing that for the last 2 years. I worked at Gold's and did the side business for 6 months. And now for the last 2 years, all I've been doing is hustling.
Did you ever think, or did you ever imagine or visualize yourself working with people like Kevin Harrington, or soon next month working with the Emmy Award-winning film crew
Never.
to film for a TV show?
Never.
I mean, what is that like? I mean, just to see going from shoot an iPhone to weddings to working at that level with them kind of people.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And first off, like, you know, most people do these kind of things. They do it for the money. Okay. I mean, that's what I used to do it for. You know, I was just like, I want to book weddings. I want to do this, and you know, I want to provide a good service and everything like that. You know, like, I mean, because a lot of people, they start off because they just want the money. Now it's all about the experience for me. The actual dollar actually doesn't mean as much to me anymore, because the experiences I get when I work with you and I work with all these big names, that's what makes it all worth it. You know, like, I mean, when I met Kevin Harrington, like, I mean, I didn't quite know who he was at first. Then I did my research, I Googled it and everything like that. And I was like, holy cow, this guy's a big freaking deal.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, when you came up to me about it, and like and especially in Brandon T. Adams fashion, you called me up a week beforehand, like, hey, you want to go to Florida? I'm like, for what? And I'm like, for what? It's like, you're booked next weekend. I was like, are you booked? I was like, no. And he was like, you're coming to Florida. I was like, we're shooting with Kevin Harrington. I was all like, wait, is that Shark Tank? And he's like, yeah. He's like, yeah. Okay. And he's like, let me negotiate, and we'll see if we can get your flight and everything like that. And
so basically, we were, I mean, literally, that film, I just got to say that we did that, the script, the filming, everything in a matter of a few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was,
well, I mean, we only had the opportunity to be there from like Thursday till like what, like Sunday or something like that. Man, that was like, I'm gonna be honest, like, I've always had an opportunity, like weddings, you get one shot at it, but I'm used to doing that kind of stuff, you know. Other shoots like this, I can set up, take as much time as we want, right? With Kevin, it was kind of like, all right, we're gonna show up in his city for what, 3 days, shoot for 2 days. We need to have this on lockdown. And I remember the first day I showed up, we actually had to drive from like an hour and a half away from like, Tampa, where we had a hotel room, and we got caught in traffic, all that stuff, and we were game planning the whole time, which is like amazing, because we didn't get to the hotel till like 1:30, and we were wiped.
And then we had to film right away the next day.
No, we took pictures that morning.
We took pictures
at
in
Kevin's
the morning,
house.
and then by the afternoon, we had Andrew, part of my team, create the actual cover for the book to make it look like we had a book. Yeah. And by that night, we are already filming with that picture on a book.
Yeah. And you know what's really cool is that cover is the one he's using, and it's my photo. And, I'm just like, this is on the bookshelves. Look at it.
I know, right?
It's super exciting. I feel like we're jumping all over the place, which is great, because like we've done so much work together, and I'm so excited to see what the future brings for both of us. We haven't even known each other for a year yet.
I know.
And we've done more things together than like I can even say about any other people in years of relationship.
No, I know, and I want to go back to, so when we did that Kevin Harrington shoot, we grew. Like I was a little scared going to that. I'm not gonna lie, because I'm like, shit, what if this doesn't go like planned? And we both were like, we have to do this right. We pulled it off. We knocked it out of the park.
I'll tell you what. You know what was the most terrifying for me is like it wasn't the content actually creating it, you know, and setting it up, but I had to go down there with like no gear. I brought my 2 cameras on my carry-on, and I was all like, all right, well, hey, by the way, big shout out to Corey Bergeron, because he hooked me up. Full trailer, full of gear, sliders, tripods, lighting. Much. Oh, man. Oh. Without that guy, it would have not have been good.
I mean, that helped. But I mean, the content we did, the scenes, I mean, you had it under control. Yeah. You knocked out of the park. So I want to go into for a video, a great video, because you've done the video for Young Entrepreneur Convention, which has been seen by many people. Yeah. You've shown, highlighted this city of Des Moines. Oh, yeah. And then for the Kevin Harrington for the book, we told a story. And then everything else we've done together, we've had a lot of great videos. And one of the big things for our campaigns, we're doing them 15 to 20 second videos, the countdown. Yeah. Every day, counting down. Yep. So what does it take, from hearing from the expert yourself, what does it take to create a great video? What are the things that you look at to make it different from the rest?
You gotta invoke emotion. You know, that was something that I learned with like weddings. You know, the more emotional, the better. You know, you draw out emotion out of somebody, they're gonna really be invested into it. You know, I could create a really cool commercial, everything like that, some flat shots or whatever. I mean, I can get really technical, but if it's boring, like if you can't capture, you know, the attention of the audience, you're never going to be good. Yeah. Okay. And what I mean by that is that, you know, the reason, like, people have recognized like my specific style of shooting, which is really cool, because I didn't think I had like a style. You know, I just watch other people. I am cursed, forever cursed, to critique every video that I see on TV, music videos, movies, all that stuff. But it's really cool though, is I critique it, but I also think in my head, like, how can I replicate that, and how can I utilize that in my own videos. So I guess the secret to making a good video is emotion, have good dynamic shots. Okay.
What do you mean by dynamic?
Dynamic meaning like good movement, good angles, things like that. You know, like even just like with like let's say weddings. Okay.
Yes.
You know, utilizing the sun a little bit. You know, a little lens flare that hits right when the bride and groom kiss or something like that. You know, like that's what like dynamic means. Like that. Why do you think I use that slider all the time?
Oh,
you know,
I love that.
it's like I just
money shots.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like some of it you just you generate some movement with with a subject or whatever and everything like that. It changes it completely. I could just set up a camera and just let it roll, or I can just move it just a little bit and it cuts to something else and something else, something else. It's like then all of a sudden now you got magic.
Yeah.
You know? So emotion, dynamic shots, good music. That's a huge deal, actually.
Music is everything. So one thing I know when we do for videos is the beat.
Yeah.
And a couple things that just come to my mind is one for the YC video with the tapping to the pen that I did. Every little beat and then boom.
Yeah.
And then for
It
Kevin
cuts to
Harrington,
black,
when we do the shake the hand, the music like the beats line up with the scenes perfectly.
You know, and that's funny because somebody else had mentioned that before, and I didn't even in my mind I was all like, I remember when I first started, I was all like, that video didn't match with the music at all. And so I remember saying to myself, it's like, I'm not going to make a video that's going to have bad music. I'm going to make sure it all matches up. I mean, how many times have we done editing? And you're like, hey, let's take that out. And I was like, hey, wait.
Take it out.
But then it messes up with the rest of the audio and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's a lot of little things. Like I could go for like ever and hours about like, what you can do to like kind of like tweak things. But music choice is a really big deal too.
Yeah.
And then also if you have dialogue, everything like that. I mean, just you gotta make it. What's the best word?
Make it turn into a story.
Yeah.
So what would be your advice for somebody listening that wants to become a professional photographer, videographer, and get into film work? Like, what is your advice to them?
Well, first get a hold of a local photographer or videographer first.
Yeah.
And try to pick their brain a little bit. I don't usually advocate that, but I can tell you one thing, as advanced as a lot of technology is nowadays, you have to learn what the technology can do for you. And also, I mean, you got to know what's out there and what you're up against too.
Yeah.
I guess what's funny is like I didn't have that opportunity. I just kind of learned all this stuff myself. Now, I'm not saying you can't just learn it all by yourself, but there's so much out there that you need to at least have a resource available to you to make sure that you're successful.
So what would be, you did a lot of learning by doing, what are some things you learned from that helped you in your own work?
Honestly, I didn't know a lot of photographers or videographers at first, so I just like utilized YouTube. I watched a lot of well-known film companies and things like that.
Yeah.
And, I watched wedding videos and all that stuff, and then I'm just a self-taught type of person,
Yes.
So in a lot of ways, I just was able to watch it and replicate it, watch it and replicate it, watch it and replicate it, and everything like that. Then pretty soon, I was able to put my own spin on it. After I started replicating it, then I was all like, it could look better if I did that.
And that's what I love about when we work together. I know going into the shoot that, I come in, it's like, Chris, now it's like, hey, what are we gonna do with this?
Yeah.
Because you know how to do the different scenes that line up for telling that story and getting that point across.
Yeah.
Whether it is a promo video, a Kickstarter video, or it's for a wedding or whatever it is, to draw that emotion.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really cool because like each video for me is it's like you think of the different artists. You got Leonardo da Vinci, you got Michelangelo, you got like Picasso or everything like that. I feel like every video I do, it's like utilizing a different artist. I'm like a different artist for every single video.
Yes.
It's not the same paintbrush, it's not the same paint, it's not the same medium or anything like that, which is really cool. Because like promotional video, it's like I already have an idea of how it can happen, but then I turn into a whole different animal if I do like a commercial, or if I do a wedding and everything like that. Nothing is the same.
So what kind of equipment do you? You're obviously not using the iPhone anymore.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
What are some of the equipment that you're using that you would suggest?
DSLR camera, for sure. Canon or Nikon, get a mid-range body. That would definitely be a huge help. The most expensive investment that you're probably going to make is your lenses, your audio equipment, And then probably, well, now that I've realized, like, I mean, I got a drone and I got like, you buy more cameras.
I love the drone, by the way.
I know you do.
We've done some great footage.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, especially
the morning too is fun.
Yeah. I mean, right now, like the studio line and stuff like that. These are like all these little things that you start to get in the future. But if you want to get started, like right now, get yourself like a Canon T5i, whatever's out there, like the mid-range body they got. Okay, get a DSLR or a Nikon 3300 or 5300 or anything like that. I mean, the camera we're filming on right now was the second camera I got in this whole journey.
That is a nice camera.
Yeah, it is a nice camera.
I got the Canon 70D. I promote it a lot, but Canons are great.
Yeah, no, I think if you want to get started in videography, figure out how to use that kind of stuff. You know, don't start off with a camcorder or anything like that. I mean, I'm not saying you can't do it with a camcorder, but there's just something special with the way that these
now
film.
you get the footage, you put in the software. What kind of software do you use for editing?
I use Final Cut Pro.
Final Cut Pro.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what we've done for all our videos.
Yep, that's all I've done. All we've done. Yeah, and I love it.
It's funny the late nights we've had where like
I just remember the YEC video. We filmed and edited the whole thing within like 6 days because we were just like on a time crunch. And I remember when we finally got it, we were at my we actually were at my studio space.
We had a six-pack.
We had a six-pack. And we stayed until like almost 1:30 at night in the morning. Yeah, 1:30 in the morning. And I mean, you were crashing hard. And finally, I'm getting to the last scene, and I was all like, play, doom, 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 doom. You're starting to perk up, and all of a sudden,
we hit it.
We just nailed it.
And then we looked at each other.
Like, we gotta go.
Yeah,
we gotta go home. We gotta go to bed.
So that was a great project. Like, we learned so much from each other. We had a lot of fun with that project.
Yeah.
Some of the best scenes we've had. Now, tell me, what would be your ideal, maybe you don't know this, but what is your ideal project or film you want to do in your life? Some future film or video or anything, what would be your ideal thing to create? I'm sure we'll create it together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Man, it's hard to say because I love doing all these types of different projects, you know.
Yeah.
Like I'll tell you what, some of the things that people suggested would make you cringe because there's some weird stuff out there. But I mean, I'll just switch it up. I'll tell you what I like doing the most though is I love doing like these promotional stuff. You know, it's fun. It's interesting. I get, a lot of times I'm allowed a lot of creative control. You know, I've done like music videos, I've done weddings and all that stuff. Those are all certain format type stuff. But like all these promotional stuff is probably my favorite. Like especially with Philip and Angelo with their Tres Mente salsa
that was
stuff.
A great commercial.
Those, it's really fun working with guys like that because they just trust me 100%. They're like, I'll show up, I'll hang out, shoot with them, and then they're like, all right, we'll see it when you get it done. You know, then 4 or 5 days later, I crank it out, and then they watch it and they're like, perfect.
I know.
You know, it's great. I love doing that. It's not because it's easy. It's because it's more fun.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so like ideally, I would like to continue doing more work like that. You know, there's not an end goal. There's not like one feature thing that I want to do.
Yeah,
just continue to
experiences.
Exactly.
We're gonna have plenty more, and I know I'm gonna have a lot that I'm gonna bring you on board with, which I'm excited about. So, before we go on to the project that you got coming up soon in the event, I want to hear your advice. What would be your advice? Because I mean, you went from living out of your truck or your car to, and then working at the gym, but also leading you from iPhone to the cameras you have now, working with big names and creating some awesome films. What's your advice to anybody out there, a young entrepreneur, anybody looking to do their own thing? Keep going. Don't stop. You know? Yeah. I'm going to be honest, like sometimes when I think about, when I was living out of my car and, sometimes I'd have to show up to like the food bank and get, cans of beans or tuna and warm it up in my car with a lighter, and in all honesty, it's like, the one thing that I remember was just keep going. Don't stop. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And in all honesty, it's like, you will figure it out. Times are going to be hard. It's going to be really fucking hard. But it's not as bad as just letting yourself give up. Exactly. You're always going to be kicking your butt if you just let yourself give up. And wonder, what if I would have kept going? Exactly. If you have a life full of what ifs, that's what your life's always going to be. That's so true, and that's why I love your story, because you've been through the toughest of times. Yeah. And you kept going, and now. And I gave you a pretty watered down version of it too. I don't even know if it made sense necessarily, but if you want to put it in perspective, I went from a homeless piece of garbage
to a successful entrepreneur now, you would never expect that in the journey that I went through. I went in and out of jail for a full year. I was living in and out of my car. I was going from job to job, or I went from 2 jobs.
And
now
we're sitting around cameras with lights everywhere.
Exactly.
And
setting up my own home. Setting up my house as a studio.
Yeah. So let's talk about what you got coming up August 5th. It's going to be fun.
Yes.
I can't wait. Tell me about the event you got coming up.
I am so excited about this because that now with the whole journey that I've gone through, it's been a big, big struggle, but it's also been some of the biggest success I've ever had in my life. And now this is an opportunity for me to say thank you to everybody. I'm going to actually be doing a Situation Films relaunch party. I'm going to have your boy, Mike, redo my whole website. I'm going to launch that then, okay, which I'm really excited about because I've had the same site with outdated content since last year.
It's going to be completely revamped. You have no idea.
I am so excited about having a new site that I'm so giddy, But so it's going to be at Cabaret West Glen, August 5th.
And for people listening out of the state, this is in Des Moines, Iowa area. And I'm going to be there. Chris can be there. A lot of people have past podcast guests and people of films we've done.
So it's going to be, what I'm envisioning is 8 to 10. 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock is a cocktail hour. It's actually going to be kind of like a digital art gallery. So if you've ever been to an art gallery, they have paintings on the wall, they got plaques, and it's all like,
I love this
So it's like, this person created this is the story behind it, this, and that. Well, the cool thing about how they're set up is they have TVs on the wall, and they're well separated. So I'm going to have basically one set of, one TV is going to have all the wedding videos showing. It's going to have a plaque saying Situation Film specializes in blah, 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 blah. And then I'm envisioning people just kind of standing around watching this is great, awesome. Then they can move on to the next TV, which is then all my promotional stuff, let's say. So all the commercials for Tres Mentes or some guys I did with with Untouched Table, the silverware company, and everything like that. Then all those videos are going to roll. Then I have all my charity work rolling on another TV and everything like that. So people can walk around. The music's going to be low.
See the creative art and film.
Exactly. So also another cool thing is the first 100 people that show up, I'm sponsoring a free drink. Okay. So that's coming out of my pocket. I'll be
there for that.
You're gonna get one regardless. And then also it's gonna be Hollywood style. Red carpet in. I got my boy Adrian, who's gonna have his photo booth set up, or I want him to be set up. I actually haven't talked to him yet. I probably should figure that out.
Me calling the week before.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm going to have a photo booth set up so that right when you walk in, you can be like, hey, cool, awesome, Then, actually, what's really cool is I'm going to have, like I said, I'm going to relaunch the site. I'm going to have a table that's going to have a big monitor set up so people can navigate the site. They can actually write down an inquiry. So, hey, if you like seeing what you saw, you can write down your name, number, email, all that stuff, and be able to,
This will be great to highlight everything you've done. In the past year, for what we've done alone, it's crazy. I just look and I know all the content you have from what we've done. There's a lot of things I haven't even seen yet.
Yeah. Oh man, there's so much. Ever since we met, I've probably cranked out at least 40 plus videos that no one has seen yet.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to launch all that stuff. I'm gonna actually be able to tell my story a little bit. You're probably gonna see me cry. I'm actually gonna create a testimony video of past people I've worked with, you included. So 8 to 9. 9 o'clock I speak for a couple minutes and another hour for people to just socialize, and I'll be able to mingle and everything like that. Then at 10 o'clock, turns into a bar, turns into a club. Everyone can dance their faces off.
Well, I'm definitely excited for it. I'm going to be there, and I know we have a lot of other cool people who are going to be there. I suggest anybody in the area, you want to make a trip to Des Moines, Iowa, we're going to be there for that. And also, you come to the next Young Entrepreneur Convention. Chris and I are actually business partners. He's one of the co-founders of Young Entrepreneur Convention. You've done the film. Who would have thought going from us sitting around a table to now?
Well, let's backtrack for a second. I want to tell people about how that all went down. So you remember how I said I was pretty standoffish about that?
Yeah.
I was thinking in my mind, he's going to try to sell me something. I'm like, I ain't buying, right? But then it turned into hey man, we need you. And I was like, wait, what? And then from there, I thought, one video, I'm out. Then it became so much more.
Another video.
And then another video.
You saw the vision.
Yeah, I saw the vision behind it, and I think, I stand behind Young Entrepreneur Convention 100%. It's such a great conference. Like, we had a great first year. I mean, I can't even imagine, like, well, I couldn't imagine how successful, like, I mean, I just didn't imagine that, you know? First one, we had, 600 registered attendees, and over 50% showed up, which was amazing out of a 2-day event.
Yeah, with 500 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing, you know? It's awesome. And, like, none of us on the team had event planning, like, skills whatsoever.
None of us do anything.
Yeah, we had nothing.
We just wanted something to happen. We made it happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, we just had an amazing team. I can't even begin to, thank the whole team, because each and every single one of us knew exactly what we needed to do, and we executed.
And that's the thing with something like that, we had a successful event because we had a great team. We had the videographer, we had the guy doing PR, everybody had their component. We worked together. We stressed a little, might have got a little aggravated with each other, but we made it happen.
Yeah.
And that's
normal.
That's how you create big things though.
Exactly.
With synergy between people.
Yeah.
Chris, Man, I love you, brother.
Yeah, I love you too, man.
I'm so glad you came on the show. Where can people find you? And then end on by just saying your last bit of advice for anybody out there.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. That's the easiest right now. And my new website's going to launch here soon, so you can find me on there. But you find me on Facebook at Situation Films, or you can add me on my personal page. I post a lot of stuff there. Chris Lowe, so last name's just L-O. Okay, I get that messed up all the time, and I'm going to reiterate just my last bit of advice is just don't stop. Keep hustling. Times are going to be hard, but it's just like I said, you're going to be kicking yourself in the butt if you decide to give up. Okay, you can't get this far and work so hard for you just to stop what you're doing. What's that analogy like? It's like stopping the car because you get one flat tire.
Exactly.
Like why? Why would you do that? So just don't stop, keep hustling, in all honesty, that's the philosophy I hold every single day, is just do not stop.
And for anybody in life, if you don't stop, you can't be beaten.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're just going to keep going. Eventually, you're going to hit the milestones that reach your huge success, and you've done that.
Yeah.
And I'm proud to say you're a friend of mine. I'm excited for what you're going to do, what we're going to do together.
Yeah.
And for anybody out there, just know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's going to be a tough road, but you'll eventually get there. You'll get to your end goal, and who knows, you might be sitting behind a camera like this, filming, and get ready for the next big thing.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Everybody, you know what time it is. It is time to go out there, create something great, and become unforgettable, because life is too short not to. I'm Brandon T. Adams. Have a great day, everybody.